Number 1, the shrug life the world moved fast. Jack. Nolan didn't. The alarm buzzed at 7 a.m. like it did every morning. Not that it mattered. Jack didn't have a job, didn't have a girlfriend, didn't even have a proper bed frame. Just a mattress on the floor, a cracked iPhone on the nightstand, and a hoodie he hadn't washed in days. He blinked once, twice, then rolled over and tapped snooze, not because he had anything to do, but because it felt like the right thing to do when a machine screamed at you first thing in the morning. He wasn't lazy, at least. That's what he told himself. Just ... uninspired, detached, numb in places he didn't know could go numb. Jack stared at the ceiling, where a tiny brown stain had formed in the shape of something that looked like Texas. He hated Texas. Never been there, just hated the shape. Too smug, he pulled the hood over his head and closed his eyes. Again, thought another day to survive by doing as little as possible. By 11:47 a.m., he finally got up. The sun had already claimed most of the sky. Jack shuffled to the bathroom in his socks, brushed his teeth with water, only he'd run out of toothpaste 3 days ago, and splashed his face half-heartedly. He looked in the mirror. No pimples, no smiles either. Just a pale 24-year-old with tired eyes, a hoodie, and a kind of expression that screamed, "Don't ask me anything." The mirror, DIDN, single quotes T. in high school. He'd been the quiet genius, AP classes, robotics team, a perfect SAT score. Everyone said he'd go places. Harvard, MIT, Silicon Valley. But places never happened. He dropped out of college halfway through sophomore year. Something about it all just stopped making sense. Why chase grades? Why chase people? Why chase anything? He never got an answer, so he stopped asking. Now his days were made of screens and silence. TikTok for distractions, YouTube for noise, Reddit for pretending he had thoughts, DoorDash for meals. He watched a 3-hour video titled 10 Billionaires Who Failed Before They Succeeded. He didn't even watch it for motivation. He just liked watching other people fall apart, made him feel less alone. At 3:33 p.m., a text popped up from his mom. "Mom, Jack, I love you. Just checking in. Can we talk soon?" He stared at it for 6 minutes, then locked the phone. Love was weird. She said it too much. By 6 p.m., Jack sat on his apartment's small balcony with a soda and the same hoodie he wore yesterday and the day before. He watched cars move, watched birds fly, watched people walk with purpose. That part always bugged him. Where were they going? Why were they walking so fast? A kid across the street tripped on the sidewalk, cried for 2 seconds, then got up and ran again. Jack smirked faintly, resilience in motion. Then the moment passed. Like everything else, his neighbor on the second floor was blasting music again. Something about rise and grind and no excuses. Jack sipped his drink and said quietly, "Shut up, Gary." At night, Jack played an old video game he'd beat 10 times before. He wasn't trying to win. He just liked the familiarity of failure. But something small changed that night. Something so small, it could have been missed. He scrolled Instagram and saw a photo from his high school archives. His younger self, standing with a robotics trophy, hoodie zipped open, smiling awkwardly but smiling. He looked alive. That kid didn't shrug. That kid cared. Jack stared at the photo until the screen dimmed. He whispered to himself, "Where the hell did you go?" But there was no answer, only silence. And for the first time in a long time, that silence felt heavy.
Number 2, the Echo Asterisk. The rain wasn't planned, it just showed up like most things in Jack's life. No warning, no purpose, just water falling from a gray sky. He stood barefoot in the kitchen, microwaving last night's pizza, listening to the rain tap against the single cracked window like it had something important to say. It didn't, neither did Jack. That morning, he had gone digging for an old phone charger and ended up opening a box he hadn't touched in years. Dust clung to it like memories that didn't want to be disturbed. Inside, a robotics team medal, a torn notebook, a photo of him and his dad at a science fair, and a folded piece of paper labeled, "Things I Will Do Before 25" written by Jack Nolan. Age 17, he hesitated. He hated nostalgia. It made silence feel louder, but something about that folded paper felt alive. Like it had teeth. He sat on the couch, opened it, and read the list. 1. Build my own AI startup. 2. Travel to Japan alone. 3. Write a book that makes people cry. 4. Tell mom I'm sorry for being so distant. 5. Fall in love with someone who sees the real me. 6. Forgive dad. 7. Speak at a school and inspire one kid who feels invisible. 8. Don't waste time. 9. Don't settle. 10. Don't become someone who just shrugs at life. Jack, read the last one again. His mouth stayed still, but something behind his eyes moved. That 17-year-old kid, he knew something. He believed in something. He believed in himself. Jack folded the paper again. Slower this time. The microwave beeped. He didn't move. A quiet voice in his head whispered, "You're already 24." And for the first time in years, Jack felt ashamed, not because of what he hadn't done, but because he couldn't remember why he stopped trying. That evening, he opened the old notebook. First page. Ideas to save the world. He smiled. Barely. It was filled with sketches of devices, business, names, quotes, algorithms. He had dreams back then. Big, raw, wild dreams. He flipped pages like they were pieces of someone he lost. Page 37. No one's gonna hand you your life. Jack, you've got to build it, even if no one believes you can. He slammed the notebook shut. It was too much, but silence stayed, and the silence was echoing now. Every TikTok felt fake. Every YouTube video sounded loud. Every motivational quote online felt like a slap, like it was aimed right at him. Success is quiet. Losers complain. One day or day one, you decide. He turned off his phone. He wasn't angry. He was tired of being asleep. Around midnight, he stood in front of the mirror again. Same hoodie, same eyes, but this time, there was something underneath his stare. A question. Not, why am I like this, but, can I still become him? The kid who wrote that list. The next morning, Jack did something small, tiny, insignificant to anyone else. He cleaned his desk. Not deep, not sparkled. Just removed the dust. Then he charged his old laptop. It took 8 minutes to boot. The login screen stared back like a dare. He entered the password, changed 2018 and paused. He laughed once dry. Ironic. Guess that didn't age well. He opened Google Docs. Blank screen. Blinking cursor. A tiny vertical heartbeat. Write a book that makes people cry. That was goal. 3. So he typed just one line. There was a boy who stopped trying. Until silence became unbearable. Then he closed it. He had nothing more, but it was a start. That day, Jack didn't watch YouTube. He didn't scroll TikTok. He didn't eat junk food. He didn't become perfect either. He still wore the hoodie, still slouched. But when someone knocked on his door, his landlord asking about rent, Jack didn't fake a smile or make an excuse. He just nodded and said, "I'm figuring it out." And he meant it. He wasn't back. He wasn't better, but for the first time in a long time, Jack Nolan was listening to his own echoes. Number 3. The silent climb. The hardest part of change isn't the work. It's the invisibility. Jack woke up the next day, before the sun did. Not because he had to, because he wanted to see if he still could. He didn't post about it, didn't make a day one TikTok, didn't text anyone, "I'm changing my life." He just got up, brushed his teeth, drank cold water, sat at the desk he hadn't used in 2 years, opened his laptop, opened that same Google Doc, and stared for 10 minutes. The cursor blinked. Jack didn't type. He thought hard about the kind of story that might save someone like him. A story not filled with hype or hustle, but silence, pain, real things. Then he typed, "He wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, he wanted to build the future." Then the world told him to be realistic, and he listened. He wrote for 20 minutes, then deleted half of it, then wrote again. He didn't know what he was doing. He just knew that doing something felt better than nothing. At noon, he went outside. That was new. The sun didn't hurt as much as he thought. He took his notebook to a park, sat on a broken bench, and watched people move, talk, smile, work. A group of teens were filming something, probably a dance challenge. Jack didn't judge. He just observed. Then he pulled out his pen and wrote, "Nobody notices the guy in the background, but he notices everything." Back home, he cooked real food, not great food, just scrambled eggs, burned slightly, no cheese, too much salt. Still, it was warm. He opened a free online course on coding, something called Python for beginners. His brain hurt after 20 minutes, but he didn't quit. He bookmarked it. At 9 p.m., he did something bold. He deleted TikTok. Not temporarily, not off my phone for a while. He nuked it. It asked, "Are you sure you want to delete your account?" He clicked yes. The app disappeared. Silence grew, and weirdly, so did focus. That week, Jack repeated the routine. Write, walk, learn, cook, sleep. Repeat. No fanfare, no praise, just effort. Quiet, invisible effort. And the thing about invisible effort, it starts to hurt. He posted a small blog post on Reddit. A story about a lonely kid building his own AI robot. No replies. No upvotes. Just silence. His old friend Jake texted, "You good, bro? Why you off socials?" Lol, Jack replied, "Working on something." No reply. He called his mom. For the first time in 6 months, she cried. He didn't. Not because he didn't care. Because the emotions were stuck somewhere deep, like glue in his chest. At night, he cried alone. Just once. Not loudly. Just sat in the shower and let water hide what his pride couldn't. Because no one claps when you're healing. No one cheers when you don't quit, quietly. But that didn't stop him. On the 14th day, something wild happened. A stranger DM'd him on Reddit. "Hey, that story about the robot. I felt that. Please keep writing." Jack stared at the message, then smiled. Faintly. Quietly he typed, "Thanks. I almost didn't post it." The stranger replied, "Then I'm glad you did." That night, Jack didn't write. He just sat on the balcony and stared at the sky. No thoughts. No noise. Just peace. For the first time in a long time, Jack Nolan didn't feel like a failure, trying to be someone else. He felt like a quiet builder, still invisible, still ignored, but building silently, steadily. Number 4. The fallback progress is addictive. Not because it's loud, but because it whispers. Maybe I'm not broken after all. For Jack Nolan, every silent step forward felt like rebellion. He didn't party, didn't post, didn't brag. He just kept building. One word, one course, one habit at a time. And it started to show. His posture straightened. His eyes stopped looking dead. He smiled once, a real one, when he made a simple app that calculated random affirmations. He called it Soft Voice Tagline. When the world shouts, speak gently to yourself. It had bugs, crashes, ugly fonts, but he made it from scratch. But alone. Then she messaged him, Leah, from college. He hadn't seen her since sophomore year, the semester he dropped out and ghosted everyone. "Hey Jack, is this really you? I found your Reddit post. That was ... beautiful." He stared at the message for almost an hour, then typed, "Yeah, it's me. Weird, right? Not weird, just ... different. I didn't expect this version of you. It's cool, really cool." And just like that, Jack let someone in. They messaged every day. She told him about her photography. He told her about his app. She sent him a voice note once, laughing. He played it 5 times. 3 weeks in, they FaceTimed. She looked the same, kind eyes, soft voice, warm. "Laugh, Jack," she said, "you seem..." Quieter than before, but in a peaceful way. He didn't know what to say, so he just smiled and said, "Quiet's all I had left. So I started making it work for me." She said she wanted to visit. He froze, then said yes. He cleaned his whole apartment, even bought toothpaste. When she arrived, she hugged him. He stood still, not because he didn't want it. He just didn't know how to receive it anymore. They spent the weekend together, walked, talked, watched sad movies. She called him the softest hard guy she ever met. He didn't know if it was a compliment, but it made his stomach feel weird, in a good way. On the 3rd night, she asked, "Do you still believe you can do it?" Jack stared at the ceiling, then said, "I don't know, but I stopped believing. I couldn't." He kissed her that night. It felt like progress, but progress doesn't mean safety and hearts. They're terrible at long-term planning. 2 days later, Leah stopped replying. Then came the message. "Jack, I'm sorry. I thought I was ready. I'm not. You're amazing, but I can't be in this with you. Not now." Silence. No calls. No FaceTime. No voice note. Nothing. Jack stared at the wall for hours. Everything in his chest, all the stitched threads, tore open at once. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He didn't text her back. He just powered off his laptop, turned off his phone. And sat for a long time. The next morning, he didn't write, didn't walk, didn't learn, didn't eat. He just laid down with his hoodie pulled tight around his face like a shield. By the 2nd day, old voices returned. "See, you're still not enough. You thought silence could save you. No one stays. You'll always be alone." He almost reinstalled TikTok. Almost. On the 3rd day, he stood up, slowly like a broken machine trying to reboot. He looked in the mirror. No anger, just exhaustion. He whispered, "I should have known." But another voice, a smaller one, buried deep, pushed back. "You let someone in. That's more courage than giving up ever was." So he sat back at his desk, opened the notebook, opened the laptop. Typed. She left, but I stayed. And that is still progress. Healing isn't linear. Growth isn't glamorous. Jack Fell back hard. But he didn't disappear this time. That was the difference. Number 5. The mirror moment 3. Weeks passed. Quietly. No breakdowns, no breakthroughs, just Jack. Existing. The silence didn't hurt anymore, but it didn't help either. It just sat with him, like an old roommate he'd stopped talking to. He still wrote, still coded, still walked around the block, but the rhythm was dull now, slower. He wasn't crashing, he was floating. Drifting through the middle space where effort meets emptiness, where you try, but you don't feel it anymore. Leah's name didn't show up on his phone. Not once. He didn't delete her number, but he also didn't open their old messages. He kept her as a ghost. On a Thursday morning, he stood in front of the mirror again. Same HOODIE, same cracked smile, but this time, he didn't just look at himself. He looked into himself and whispered, "What am I doing?" He didn't mean it in a hopeless way. He meant, what's the point of climbing if there's no one at the top? Then something strange happened. Memory flashed. 7th grade. His science teacher, Mr. Crenshaw, standing in front of the class and saying, "Some of the most important things you build in life, no one will ever see." Jack sat on the bathroom floor. Cross-legged, barefoot, hoodie up, the mirror above him, fogged slightly from his breath. He didn't wipe it. He stared at the blur, the outline of himself, and then, he asked the scariest question of all: what if no one ever sees me become who I'm becoming? What if I do everything right, and it's still unnoticed? That silence. That's what broke him. Not Leia, not failure, not loneliness, but that one possibility. What if I stay invisible forever? He could have quit right there. Would have been easier. Go back to screens, go back to numbness, go back to drifting. But instead, he stood up, looked into the foggy glass, and said, "Then I'll be the kind of man who doesn't need to be seen to be real." He went back to his laptop, opened a new document, and titled it, "Letters to the Unseen." It wasn't a book. Not yet. Just a series of truths, taught to himself, to the version of him who once stopped trying, to the kid who wrote a list, to the man still sitting alone. The first line he typed: "You don't have to be famous to be unforgettable. Just be honest, so when silence arrives, it respects you." He wrote 10 pages that night. Not for a publisher, not for validation, not even for Reddit, just for him, and it felt like returning home. He didn't get a text from Leah, didn't get a job offer, didn't get a viral post, but he got something real. The feeling of finally being aligned with his own reflection. No filters, no likes, just truth. Jack Nolan wasn't healed, but he was no longer hiding. And when he passed the mirror the next morning, he stopped, tilted his head, and nodded, not to admire himself, but to recognize himself. Number 6. The one who walked alone. Some people rise with applause. Jack Nolan rose with silence. No dramatic comeback, no viral post, no emotional reunion, just quiet mornings, consistent nights, and a man becoming someone he respected alone. He still wore the hoodie, still walked the same block, still brewed the same coffee, but something had shifted. Not outside. Not outside, inside. The weight of doubt wasn't gone. He'd just gotten strong enough to carry it. The app he built, soft voice, slowly improved. He redesigned the UI, fixed the bugs, tested affirmations that didn't feel fake. He didn't expect anyone to notice. But one morning, an email popped up. Subject: soft voice saved me. Hi. I don't know who you are, but your app helped me. I've been struggling with depression for years, and that quote about silence being strength. That broke something open. Thank you. I really mean it. Jack stared at the screen. He didn't cry. He exhaled. That kind of breath you take when something inside finally releases. Later that week, a small blog wrote a review. This minimalist little app doesn't scream for attention. It just sits there, and somehow, that's exactly what I needed. He posted his first real Medium article under his real name. The truth about building in silence. It didn't go viral, but it got shared by a teacher in Utah, a Navy vet in Florida, and a kid in Kansas who messaged, "I didn't know anyone felt like this but me." Jack started calling his mom weekly, started smiling at strangers again, started reading books instead of binge-watching breakdowns he still missed. Leah sometimes still wondered what could have been, but he stopped needing answers. Not every wound needs a full explanation to close. Some just need time and peace. One morning, he took a bus to a local high school. He had emailed the principal offering to do a free talk for kids struggling with confidence. They gave him 10 minutes. He wore his best HOODIE. Jack stood in front of 30 teenagers, hands in pockets, voice calm. Eyes honest. And said, "You don't have to be loud to matter. You don't have to be perfect to start. And if no one claps for you, that's okay, because some people build their lives in silence, and that silence becomes their power." After the talk, one boy stayed behind, shy. Hands trembling. He said, "I thought I was broken because I don't talk much. But you made me feel like maybe I'm just quiet. And maybe that's okay." Jack nodded. "It's more than okay," he said. "It's yours. Make it strong." That night, he walked home under the stars. No music, no notifications, just footsteps. And stillness. And something rare. Peace. He didn't make millions. Didn't go viral. Didn't become a guru. But Jack Nolan, the chill guy no one noticed. The man in the hoodie who once gave up on everything, had become undeniable. Not because he was loud, because he was real, and in a world that worships noise, he became a legend in silence. Epilogue. The Liston, his 25th birthday. Jack pulled out that old folded list, things I will do before 25. He read each line, some still undone, some deeply lived, but at the bottom he added one more. 11. Become the man I needed when I almost gave up. He smiled, folded the paper again, and whispered to himself, "Happy birthday, Jack. You did it quietly. Not everyone needs a stage. Some people become legends, ... by walking alone, so the next time you see someone in a hoodie, eyes down, silent in a crowd, ... don't assume they've given up. They might just be building something no one understands, yet, like Jack Nolan did. The chill guy who never shouted, but whose silence changed lives. If this story made you feel seen, subscribe, and let your silence be your strength. We'll meet again in the next story.